Happy May, folks. Welcome back to hashtag AskGSM here today for May 2nd, 2016. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, answering all your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. My second to last edition from right here on my college campus. I get off on summer break next Wednesday. So I got class in a little bit. Today's edition will be limited as usual. Next week, I don't have class. I'll probably be home, actually. I don't have class next Monday, so next week's edition might be longer than usual. But today we're talking about the Payback pay-per-view from last night, which I thought was actually really good overall. It was a pretty good show, not without its flaws, and a lot of overbooking in some of the latter matches at the end of the night. But overall, I thought it was an enjoyable night. Camp WWE aired afterwards, which I'll be talking about in today's show. We have Raw tonight. I'll be at Extreme Rules in less than 3 weeks with the one and only RJ Marceau. So a lot to look forward to and a lot to talk about on hashtag AskGSM here today. So without further ado, if you want to send in questions, be sure to tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights or on the wall itself. Or you can leave a comment on this very video. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. So let's kick it off with the YouTube questions here today. From Blue Eyed Disorder, my brother Jason, his question was, do you think CM Punk thinks about returning since so many of his friends and new talent are now in the WWE? Good question. I mean, prime examples, you can name Luke Gallows, who I know he was very good friends with. He talked about it in the podcast. Gallows was on Talk is Jericho with Carl Anderson about a week or so ago. He doesn't keep in as close contact with Punk, he said, as he once did, but they are still good friends. Remember back when Punk was hot, back in 2011, he, distinctly, obviously name-dropped Colt Cabana and Luke Gallows as guys that Vince fired for liking pro wrestling. Remember that during the whole contract signing, like right before Money in the Bank? So he obviously thought very highly of him, even if they weren't very close friends. I know they had that, alliance in the Straight Edge Society many years ago. I don't think so. I think CM Punk is just content where he is. Going back to the ever-asked question, will CM Punk ever return? I've always said this since day one. It's been over 2 years at this point. I've been saying it since the day he left. I think he will be back. I know he will be back at some point. I'm not saying it's tomorrow. I'm not saying it's next month. I'm not saying it's next year. The guy's busy with UFC anyway. I know there's going to be shows like last night in Chicago where they're going to chant for CM Punk, which is sometimes annoying when it's not warranted. When they're chanting it at Mr. McMahon, I don't really care. But when they're hijacking matches with a CM Punk chant, it's just dumb. When people think that he's going to come back, that just blows my mind because he's signed to UFC, so it's not happening anytime soon, if, at any point in the near future. But to answer your question, I don't think so. I think, obviously there's a lot of reasons why he left. They did a whole 2-hour podcast about it. I know Jason and I talked about that last summer. But I think the main reason was because he was burned out. He didn't like the direction the company was going in. And that really hasn't changed. I think the overall quality of the product has improved over the last 2 years. But I don't think it's as drastic of a difference like, I need to go back now. Maybe a little bit. I know, guys like Daniel Bryan, a good friend of his, has since retired. You have guys like Rollins in there and Cesaro, who he's also very thought highly of and has put over in the past, and he's like worn a t-shirt to like press conferences and shit. But I don't think he thinks about coming back just because there's new talent in there. I think until something changes at the top of the chain, including like the McMahons being taken out of power or at least something happening with Triple H, I don't think he's going to be planning on coming back anytime soon. Emmanuel A., also from YouTube, bit of a long-winded question, but his question was, so I've been watching 2001 WWF post-Attitude Era, and the post-WrestleMania 17 pre-invasion era is a pretty strange transitional period. The biggest thing about it is that Austin's heel run and the two-man power trip team with Triple H, because if there's one fatal flaw with Stone Cold's heel turn, it was probably long-term planning. Neither Austin or Triple H really have a lot of faces to work with. Rock took time off, Jericho lost the IC title on the first SmackDown after WrestleMania, and wouldn't get involved again with the titles until Judgment Day, and Benoit would be busy feuding with Kurt Angle. The Hardys got a very brief program where Jeff won the IC title, only to lose it 4 days back to Triple H. Only Undertaker and Kane were threats to Austin and Triple H, which honestly was kind of underwhelming since they already had the main event to themselves in 98 and 99. Do you think the fatal flaw with Austin's heel turn really was a lack of strong stars? Obviously the most fatal flaw with the Austin heel turn was the Austin heel turn. I think they didn't really need to do it to begin with. I know it was the whole shock value and whatever. And the fact that I just don't think it was necessary because it killed business. That was right when they bought WCW and people turned away. I was just talking to someone a week ago how they turned off WWF. They were turned off by wrestling right after Austin went heel. Was it a good surprise? Sure. Long-term wise, In the long haul, was it a good idea? Absolutely not, because it just wasn't necessary. It was not necessary to have Austin as the heel, because he was the hottest thing going in wrestling. You take that away, there's nothing to really watch for most people, because a lot of people watch for Stone Cold. And when they took that away, and they got on the whole invasion thing, and that was a whole fucking train wreck, obviously, it just wasn't necessary. So I don't think obviously there's some things that you could have done better to improve it, like you said. I don't know. I definitely think that was a factor. The long-term planning and not really a lot of strong stars to work with. You think about it, they had pretty much everyone was a star in the Attitude Era. Even fucking D'Lo Brown was over in the Attitude Era. But like you said, there was a lot of different factors at that time that really kind of prevented them from having fresh feuds in 2001 before the whole invasion angle. And even when you had the invasion angle, you had what? Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page facing Undertaker and Stone Cold and all these guys, Like you said, for the first part of the post-WrestleMania 17 period, it was pretty much just the Brothers of Destruction. And there were some good matches, but like you said, we had already seen that 98 and 99. Rock was gone for a while, and he wouldn't be back until the second half of 2001. And even then, we had already seen Rock and Stone Cold multiple times. So even if he stuck around, it probably wouldn't have made as big of a difference. Jericho and Benoit got involved later on too, like you said. So, right in the beginning, it just didn't make much sense. I don't know if it was, a last-minute decision to turn Stone Cold. I don't remember exactly. I feel like Stone Cold said somewhere along the way in one of his podcasts or somewhere that the decision was made that day to turn him heel. Like, I know that's a lot of what their big decisions are, like the streak breaking and stuff like that. They wait until the day of, and they don't make up their minds until literally the day of the show. I don't know if that was the case with this one, because I know it had been foreshadowed for a while that Austin was going to do something dirty at WrestleMania. But even he has said in the past that he could have just turned on Rock the same way he had turned on McMahon afterwards too. So he didn't have to be a full-fledged heel. He could have been just Austin of old and shades of gray and attacking everybody, not just attacking baby faces, not a full-fledged heel. But I don't know if long-term planning was the biggest flaw with Austin's heel turn. I think the biggest flaw was the heel turn itself, but I think part of why it didn't really work out, aside from him suffering an injury at one point at the hands of Booker T inadvertently, just a lot of shitty planning, a lot of shitty circumstances, but I definitely do think you have a great point that long-term planning, and the lack of long-term planning, rather, was certainly a factor in his downfall as a heel. The first GFC, also from YouTube, card prediction for Extreme Rules. I imagine a lot of rematches from Payback, and usually it's like, rematch-mania, but in this case, I'm fine with it, and I think it makes a lot more sense. When we had the old schedule with Extreme Rules and then Payback, that to me made no sense. Like, why would you have a stipulation match and then do one more match of the following pay-per-view without the stipulation? Like, what's the fucking point, So I'm glad they switched it up, and they're not dragging since WrestleMania. All of these are fresh feuds that have only been going since at least the day after WrestleMania. So it feels fresh. There's something new. I don't really have a problem with a lot of the rematches. So on paper, I'm thinking right now, obviously we have Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. That was confirmed last night at the end of the show. I read online that it's an Extreme Rules match. I didn't hear that. Maybe I missed something. I wouldn't be surprised, but I guess that might be what it is. I didn't really check up on it, but I'm assuming that's what it is. Charlotte and Natalya, I'm thinking an I Quit match, and I'd be totally fine with that. Melina and Beth Phoenix are the only two women ever to have an I Quit match, women's match in WWE history, and it was fucking great. At the One Night Stand, I think 2008 show. That was a really good match. I could see them having a similar match at that show. If not like steel cage with that interference, that'd be cool because we haven't seen a women's steel cage match in like over a decade. So that Ambrose Jericho, I imagine they're going to have a rematch. Probably Vaudevillains New Day for the tag team titles. Like I said, just a lot of rematches from the pay-per-view. The Fatal 4-Way for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know what stipulation. Like a ladder match would be cool, but we just saw that at WrestleMania, so probably not. I don't know what stipulation. They don't even really give stipulations like Fatal 4-Way matches anymore at these pay-per-views. They just say, it's a Fatal 4-Way. There's no disqualification as it is, so it's already Extreme Rules. Like, that's stupid. But as we've learned in the past, not every match in the show has to be Extreme Rules. It should be, but that hasn't been the case in years. But anyway, those are a few matches I expect to happen at the pay-per-view. His second question, what's next for Kalisto? I'm about to write an article in the next couple days, like potential challengers for Kalisto's U.S. title. I could see him facing Sheamus or Rusev going forward. Hopefully not Del Rio. God fucking no. God knows we saw enough of that earlier this year. They had good matches, but that feud's been done to death. For Kalisto, hopefully they just get him more consistently on TV. Him and Ryback, to their credit, had a great goddamn match. And I'll talk more about Ryback in a second. But that was a really, really good match. I would say much better than the WrestleMania match, but that kind of goes without saying because the WrestleMania match was just kind of, I thought it was good, but it wasn't like, it was just kind of there. And but the fans weren't there. That's the funny thing. There was no one in the arena when that match happened at WrestleMania. But they were packed in the arena by the time this match happened at Extreme Rules last night, and they had a great match. So kudos to them. But what's next for Kalisto? Like I said, probably Sheamus or Rusev, which those guys mean nothing right now. But then again, the U.S. title means nothing. It's been on the pre-show for the last 3 pay-per-views. So does anyone really care? I mean, they had a great match. I like the match, and I appreciate that. But they got to get Kalisto on TV. They got to get him off the pre-show. I mean, this is the same title that felt like the most prestigious prize in the company not even a year ago. Go back 6 months. It felt like the most prestigious prize in the entire WWE. And they fucked that up when Cena left. You know, they had that chance there with Kalisto, and he's been doing all right, but the guy's never on Raw, and when he is, he loses. And when he's involved in fucking random-ass tag team matches where he's taking the pin, it does nothing for him or the title. So, what's next for him, I really can't tell you definitively. We might find out more tonight on Raw, considering the next pay-per-view is in 3 weeks, or less than 3 weeks at this point, and they usually kick off their pay-per-view matches, you know, the build and the feuds to those matches on this show, hopefully anyway, ideally. But I don't even know if he's going to be at the show, like on the actual show, who knows, but like I said, probably Sheamus or Rusev. John Cena won't be back in time for Extreme Rules, but I could see him going back after the U.S. title. That'd be something cool, I guess. I don't know why John Cena would want to go back after a title that doesn't mean anything anymore, but, you know, the last time we saw him, he wanted the U.S. Championship, so who knows. Frankishire 15, does Ryback deserve the hate that he gets? You know, I'm probably biased because I'm a Ryback fan, but even putting that aside, I don't think so. Even just as a prime example, I thought last night was fucking great. Ryback comes out. He's going to get booed anyway. It's Chicago. They hate Ryback. They pretty much always have hated Ryback. The whole Goldberg chants, blah, 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 blah. But the best thing he did when he came out was mock the CM Punk entrance. You know, doing the whole wiping on the floor and looking at his watch, or, you know, the supposed to be watch in his hand and saying, I think it's feeding time. I don't think he said it's clobbering time. I don't think he went that far. But it was goddamn great. I got a good laugh out of that. I'm a CM Punk fan. It's not like, oh, I hate CM Punk. I want to see him make fun of him. I thought that was really funny, especially considering that Ryback, that's not the first time either. He's done that before. He's done like the running the into the turnbuckle, which he's made in like a regular move. But he's made fun of CM Punk, or at least mocked him before in the ring, because they have history, like from, you know, I know Punk talked about him on the podcast, and Ryback's been busting his balls ever since. But anyway, yeah, I don't think so. I think Ryback is really good. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's ever going to get above a certain level in WWE, at least at this point. Maybe a couple of years ago, not at this point. But he tries. He tries. And I think he deserves a lot of credit, not just Kalisto, for having just an awesome performance last night at Payback in that awesome kickoff match. So, no, I don't think he deserves the hate at all. I think he actually is not even, I don't know if I would go so far as to call him underrated, but I think, you know, he tries to get better and do innovative maneuvers, like the whole frog splash. You don't see that too often from guys his size, other than Kevin Owens, and, you know, Ryback tried it first last year. He tries new things, and I think he works well with the right opponents too, and I think Kalisto is that guy. So I think people shit on Ryback just because, oh, he's bland and he's boring. I could see that, but I don't think, you know, he's all bad. There's far worse wrestlers in the company. There's far more people that I could give two shits about more than Ryback. I think Ryback is, or less about Ryback. Who cares? You know what I'm talking about. I think there's more people on the roster that are worse off than Ryback. I think Ryback, you know, he's done pretty well for himself in both the heel and face roles. His second question, with Damian Sandow returning, I don't think he returned, but I think I know what you mean, because I know he was on Raw, and then he wrestled on SmackDown, but whatever. Will he be a jobber for the rest of his career? At this point, probably. I mean, I thought the same thing when he was doing the whole, I mean, again, I guess at that point he was on TV. At least now he's not on TV at all, which is even worse. But, you know, when he was doing all the impersonations and the characters every single week, like Paul Revere and fucking like a basketball player and the rapper, and wearing the leotards and shit like that. At least he was on TV, and at that point I thought he'd be forever a jobber, and that's when he kicked off the whole Mizdow thing. You know, albeit unintentionally, he got that over in spite of WWE, not because of WWE. At this point, I mean, like you said, because he's quote-unquote returning. I mean, the guy's been on TV maybe 3 times in the last year. I'm not even exaggerating. His last Raw match, and he technically didn't wrestle on Raw last week, Damian Sandow's last Raw match was, I think, the Raw before the Payback pay-per-view last year. Last May. That's almost a year ago, people. It's fucking May 2nd. That's ridiculous. Especially for someone, I mean, I could see like, oh, JTG or fucking Zack Ryder or Fandango hasn't wrestled on Raw in a year, but they actually have, but you know what I mean. That, but with a guy that was the most over guy in the company at one point, at this point a year ago, or not at this point a year ago, but a couple months ago, a year ago. It just blows my mind, and he still has so much to offer. He's still very, very entertaining, but at this point, I really kind of lost all hope. Like, I hate to see him so wasted, so underutilized, but at this point, it's not like I'm past the page. I'm past the point of anger with WWE with Damien Sandow. It's like I've been clamoring for years for them to do something with him, but for almost 3 years at this point, he's been a glorified fucking loser. Ever since he dropped the Money in the Bank briefcase and he lost the world title match to John Cena, he's been a loser. Even when he was with The Miz, he was a loser. I mean, he was an over loser, but now he's not even over. I mean, I guess he is, because I heard in that from people that went to the show last week in Hartford that he got one of the biggest pops of the night when he came out. It wasn't televised, but he got a great pop. I mean, people still like Damien Sandow. People don't even know he's employed. But yet he still gets a great reaction whenever he comes up because people genuinely like Damien Sandow. It blows my mind, but at this point, he probably will be a jobber. I hate to say it, but I mean, the last year has been, if it's been any indication, he's probably going to be a jobber for the rest of his career, which is a shame, but it's just the way it is, unfortunately. Mark S. has got a couple questions here from Facebook. Do you think the League of Nations were right to break up, or should they have strengthened by Antonio Cesaro turning heel and joining them? They were right to break up. The stable has been dead in the water since the start. I mean, I said from the get-go, I like the idea of these guys joining up, Barrett, Rusev, Sheamus, and Del Rio. I've always said I like the idea of a foreign stable with current guys in the WWE, kind of like a lot like the stable that we got in WWE 12 a long time ago, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. I think it had McIntyre, Sheamus, Regal, and Barrett, and it was called the United Nations or something like that, and it was a great stable, and a lot of people were clamoring for it for years, and that's from a video game, and they finally did something like that in real life, but by that point, it was just terrible timing. All these guys did not mean anything. Barrett was a loser at that point. Always has been a loser for the most part, but he meant nothing when they joined up. He means nothing now. He's not even on TV now, so it's not like it even matters. Rusev just got off that awful feud with Dolph Ziggler. No one gave a shit about him either. Sheamus, a loser, and Del Rio was kind of doing all right at that point, but he's become a loser too. I mean, I don't care about Del Rio. There's nothing exciting about him. I mean, there really never has been in a long time. But ever since he came back, other than that one clean win over John Cena, that was their chance to make him mean something again. That was their chance to make him into a strong heel, and they failed. And they made him into just like everybody else at that point, which sucks, but that's, again, just the way it is. So, again, I don't think WWE needs a stable like them right now. We already have the Wyatt family and Social Outcast and God knows how many other stables, the Authority. We don't need League of Nations right now. We don't need them at all, really. I mean, like I said, I think these guys are just better off on their own. So I think they were right to break them up. I think Cesaro joining them and turning heel would have been the kiss of death for Cesaro. He's been doing really well since he came back. He's on a hot streak. Why ruin that by turning him heel and having him join a bunch of losers? That would have been the worst possible thing they could have done for the group and especially for Cesaro. His second question, do you think the Wyatt family are too far gone to become tag team champions in the future, or would the idea of Anderson and Gallows becoming champions, that a faction war could break out between them and the Wyatt family? You know what? I like that idea a lot. I read that last night and I'm thinking that would be a great fucking match. You get Gallows and Anderson in the ring with Wyatt and Harper, that could be one hard-hitting affair. Again, I don't know if they're too far gone from the tag team titles. They haven't gone after the tag team championships in over almost 2 years at this point, since Harper and Rowan went after the championships. And they could still do that now. You know, they still have Rowan and Strowman on the roster. They're not great wrestlers by themselves, but, you know, it's something. At least they're healthy. I hate to see them get wasted. You know, I mean, they're probably just holding off until Wyatt or at least Harper comes back. Probably Wyatt first. I don't know what the timetable is for either guy's return. I heard Wyatt in like a month maybe or 6 weeks. We'll see. But for these guys, I think at some point, I mean, I could see Enzo and Cass knocking off New Day for the tag team titles, maybe at SummerSlam, but I would probably go with Gallows and Anderson just because they're a heel tag team, and then you could set up New Day and those guys in a rematch, Gallows and Anderson versus the Usos. They have history, Enzo and Cass. There's a lot of good tag teams that they could do versus Gallows and Anderson as tag team champions at some point in the near future. And at some point, the Wyatt family is baby faces. Again, Wyatt and Harper, or at least Harper and Rowan. Those guys had some of the best matches, period, of the year in 2014 with the Usos. With Gallows and Anderson, I expect nothing different. I expect no, nothing different from those guys if they were to, pair up as opponents. So family, the Wyatts versus the Bullet Club guys, Gallows and Anderson, would be an amazing match. So I'm all for that. I don't know how likely it is. I'm not holding out hope because, like you said, both teams are nowhere near the tag team titles at the moment, but maybe at some point down the line, that would be a really good feud. So hopefully we can look back on this a couple months or even a year down the line and say, we called it. That would be a great match, or at least you called it, Mark. Any ideas what matches could be taking place the next NXT TakeOver? Spoiler alert, I don't read spoilers. I just read it on Twitter or something. I think someone told me. It's not a huge spoiler, but I think we are getting Samoa Joe, Finn Balor for the NXT Championship one more time at NXT TakeOver in June, which is fine by me. I guess they need to do the rematch. Balor has yet to show up on Raw. Maybe he shows up tonight, but he didn't show up at Payback, so he might be sticking around in NXT for a little while longer. But I could see that match. Just pretty much a lot of rematches. Asuka, Bayley. I mean, they teased Asuka, Nia Jax, but I would rather see them, save that for the next special, maybe for Brooklyn, who knows, and then do Asuka and Bayley in June. And then probably American Alpha versus Revival again. Other than that, I'm not really sure. They really haven't kicked off many feuds on NXT in the last couple of weeks. It's just kind of been filler. Maybe Shinsuke versus Eric Young's there now. I'm surprised no one asked any questions about Eric Young in today's show, in today's episode. Probably because of Payback and everything else going on. But it's funny. I don't really care too much about Eric Young. I mean, I talked about him before when he left TNA. Do you think he's going to go to NXT? I said probably not, and he showed up anyway. But I'm not mad that he's in NXT. I think it's pretty cool, but I just don't really care, and apparently you guys don't either. I just thought that was funny. But maybe Shinsuke versus Eric Young or Austin Aries. We have a lot of baby faces in NXT, apparently, not enough heels. We have fucking Elias Sampson. Whoop-de-doo. But yeah, those are a few of the matches I feel like we could be getting at the next NXT TakeOver. I'm not sure what the name is. I heard Revenge somewhere on Wikipedia. I heard no confirmation of that at all, but that's what I just saw on Wikipedia somewhere. But you can never really trust Wikipedia, obviously. Would you have liked to see any different takes / angles in any of the matches at tonight's Payback pay-per-view? Or last night's Payback pay-per-view, I guess, at this point. The only matches, the main event, I wish we didn't get as much overbooking as we did. Still a really good match otherwise, though. If it's a straight-up singles, straightforward match between these guys, between AJ Styles and Roman Reigns, I feel like it could be a phenomenal match, no pun intended. But what we got last night was still very, very good. The women's match, the finish, I just thought was fucking stupid. Stupid. Why do we have to get the Montreal Screwjob 5 times every year? It's been fucking 19 years, WWE. Get over it. It's been almost 2 decades. It doesn't elicit heat. It elicits empathy from people like me and fans that are just tired of seeing the same old bullshit. It doesn't even make any sense. They weren't in Montreal. They were in Chicago. I know Bret Hart was at ringside. Whoop-de-doo. He didn't even want to be there to begin with. If they just brought in Bret Hart to do the Montreal Screwjob for the 19th, 1000th time, what a waste. The guy didn't even want to be there to begin with. And then to pull this bullshit, I thought was so stupid. I know you want to set up a rematch. You could have easily done that by having Charlotte, cheat or something. I'm not saying Ric Flair interferes again, but you could have done something to retain the title that did not involve rehashing an old angle from fucking 2 decades ago that they seemingly do at least once a year ever since 1997. Stupid. And then Baron Corbin losing to Dolph Ziggler I thought was just so asinine. I posted on Twitter, why would Dolph Ziggler beat Baron Corbin? It makes no sense. The guy means nothing. Baron Corbin was on a hot streak. He suffers his first WWE loss in a month. In NXT, he suffered maybe 3 losses in singles competition. Not even that. Maybe 2 in the matter of a year and a half. He's been on the main roster for a month and he's already lost his first match to Dolph Ziggler on the kickoff show. Why? Because fuck you. That's why. That's pretty much Vince's response. Why? Because fuck you. That's why. Next question. Do you think the idea of adding a menacing tag team to the NXT tag team division would be an acceptable idea, especially with the fan favorite American Alpha as the current champions and the hype bros in the division, a team that would spread fear in the division? I think the Revival have kind of been doing that recently. They attacked the Hype Bros last week in NXT and squashed their opponents, and I thought they owned the night last week in NXT. So we have the Revival, but we do need more heel tag teams, and other vaudevillains have since been called up. Blake and Murphy, come and gone. Their time is come and gone. I think they signed a new tag team from Australia or something a couple weeks ago. I know nothing about them, but I heard they're very good. I know we have, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano on the roster now, and that should be a great match. Them versus American Alpha down the line would be a great match. I've talked about it here before in the show a couple weeks ago. But in the meantime, American Alpha versus whatever this new tag team is, which I don't think they're going to waste too much time in bringing them up because they're already established. They're already really good. Maybe they just need to learn the WWE style and that's it. Yeah, hopefully it's not long before we see them in NXT, and hopefully they'd be great opponents for American Alpha. I've heard nothing but good things about them. Mitch G from Facebook: do you think the Vaudevillains will be given the win, or will they have the number one contenders match, probably at Extreme Rules? I imagine they'll probably just give them the number one contender slot anyway, because I feel like that was the original plan. Like, I think if Enzo and Cass were going to win, and maybe they were, who knows? Never say never, but I imagine the Vaudevillains were going to win. And I thought the Vaudevillains did win. There was no official announcement, and then I looked up on WWE.com, and it said no contest. So the Vaudevillains technically, as far as I know, are not the number one contenders. But we'll probably find out some, more tonight on Raw. I just see no real reason to hold a rematch of the pay-per-view at Extreme Rules if the Vaudevillains are going to win anyway. I don't know how far. I know Enzo got out of the hospital, which is great news, by the way. He posted a picture on WWE, posted a picture on Twitter, and Owens posted something too, which was hilarious, like right before midnight of him in the hospital with Enzo and Cass, like arguing or something. It was hilarious as hell. But I don't know if he's going to be cleared to go as soon as tonight or next week. I think they're going to hold off for a little bit anyway. Concussions in WWE, you could be gone for a night, you could be gone for 6 weeks. So you never know with this company. Daniel Bryan never came back. So again, you never really know with WWE. But anyway, I don't think they're going to hold off in the rematch. They'll probably, I guess, if they don't know a timetable for Enzo's return, depending on how long he's out for, they'll probably just give the win to Vaudevillains, which makes the most sense anyway, because I feel like that was the original plan all along. And then you could do Vaudevillains versus New Day. Why drag out the number one contenders tournament finals if you're going to get the same result anyway? So, and then you could always say Enzo and Cass got screwed out of the finals. And they could say they have a legitimate gripe to go back after the tag team championships, say at SummerSlam. So against New Day would be great. Actually, I think that works out better. Not to say that, Enzo got hurt, and actually, it's actually better that he did get hurt. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I think now that they got screwed out of the finals, screwed out of the win at at Payback, despite the fact they were probably going to lose anyway, they could face the Dudleys over the summer, beat them, and then the New Day conquer the Vaudevillains, and then we get New Day and Enzo and Cass at SummerSlam. # book it. What are your thoughts on Camp WWE? Well, I watched the show after the pay-per-view went off the air last night with RJ, and I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good show. I feel like they only really scratched the surface with what they could do, and I thought the same thing about the Edge and Christian show. The first few episodes were kind of like, yeah, but it actually got a lot better. The show's pretty bearable now. There are some pretty funny parts of the show that I don't think people are giving it credit for. The credit it deserves for being pretty entertaining, so I think Camp WWE will be something similar. I think right off the bat, it's already better than Edge and Christian show. Ric Flair is above and beyond the best character in the whole show up to this point. He's fucking tailor-made for that show, Ric Flair. So funny. But yeah, the show's about a half hour long, 25 minutes. Well worth the watch. Check it out. I thought it was pretty funny anyway. And RJ now enjoyed it too. So I would check it out. I would check it out if I were you, and if you haven't already. So I think it's only going to get better. I don't know how many episodes they're airing. I don't know when it's going to air, because I know Edge and Christian is going to be on Mondays for the next couple weeks. Maybe on Sundays or Tuesdays or after SmackDown. I'm not really sure. But as far as the first episode goes, I thought it was pretty good and I enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing what else the series brings. At the Average Grunt, he's got a couple questions here. What is your favorite theme song composed by Jim Johnson, CFO Money, and Dale Oliver, respectively? And who is your favorite? Favorite theme song by Jim Johnson? Probably Stone Cold, I guess. There's so many, but Stone Cold was the first one that came to mind. CFO Money, I mean, a lot of people give them shit for always know Jim Johnson. It's all generic as fuck. He's given us a lot of great theme songs. The AJ Styles one ranks pretty high up there. Samoa Joe's I love. Kevin Owens is up there too. Rollins is pretty catchy. Even Ambrose is catchy. So there's a lot of them. But Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens and AJ Styles are definitely up there. Speaking of AJ Styles, favorite Dale Oliver theme song. And he's the person who, for those unfamiliar, composes the theme songs for the music composer for TNA. And I don't know if he does it anymore, but I know he did for a while, at least a couple of years ago, because they have a lot of his songs on my iPod. AJ Styles, Easily. Get Ready to Fly. Or, I mean, I don't know if you can really count that, because I know that song was performed by another band or another artist or something, but I feel like Dale Oliver had a hand in that. So I'll say AJ Styles for TNA, and also Beer Money. Love their theme song. Because I got your money, and your alcohol. And your favorite, that wasn't a part of the song, by the way. Who's your favorite composer? Probably Jim Johnson. Do you think a group of international wrestlers could ever be faces in WWE? Or is a group of foreigners always destined to be heels? Would there have to be an American in the group in order for it to work? That's a good question. I don't know if we've ever had a group of foreigners that were baby faces. I'm sure at some point we did. Nothing really comes to mind right now, but we have, the Hart Foundation, League of Nations, Nation of Domination. So it's so easy to make them heels. So I think it takes a real effort to make them baby faces, because it's just like, oh, our country is better than yours, and that's why they're always heels. Is it possible to make a group of foreigners baby faces? Absolutely. But it's just a lot easier to make them heels, and that's why wrestling companies do it. His next question. Another pet peeve of mine is when a title changes hands at a tape show. When tracking the number of days a wrestler is champion for, do you start from the day the tapings took place or the day the match actually airs? I'm the type of person, because I feel like it doesn't happen until it airs. Disregarding the Samoa Joe title win, that was a live event. That was a little different. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Prime example was 5 years ago, actually this week. Christian lost the World Heavyweight Championship 2 days after losing it, technically, at Extreme Rules 5 years ago tomorrow. I've always said that his reign ended on the Friday when, I know it happened in reality on the Tuesday, but technically it didn't air and it wasn't acknowledged in WWE until Friday. So I'm the type of person that goes by when it aired. I know that doesn't always make a lot more sense, because I know sometimes people win championships. Like Bram won the League of Nations, King of the Mountain Championship. Yeah, League of Nations title, God forbid. The King of the Mountain Championship a month ago when TNA did their tapings at the end of March. And it didn't air until literally just until this past week. So I go until when it aired. That's just me. People go by when it happened, but that's another pet peeve of mine too. That's funny that you mentioned that, but I'm in the exact same way. I just go when it airs, not really when it happens. Unless they acknowledge it, like if it's a live event and it's never going to air, or they show the highlights on Raw or NXT, I go by when it happened at the live event. But if it's like, if the tapings at NXT and the title changed hands last week, but it didn't air until this week, I go by when it aired on TV, because that's technically when it was first acknowledged by WWE. Unless they acknowledge it beforehand, but you know what I mean. Not a wrestling question. Are you going to see Civil War? And if so, are you Team Cap or Team Iron Man, and why? I am, actually. I was going to originally plan on seeing it this weekend. I know it comes out this weekend. I was going to go see it this weekend. But that was before I decided to go home. And I'll probably be home this weekend for Mother's Day, and I won't be back until, because I go to school in Mass and I drive to Connecticut. It's a long story. And I won't be back until Sunday or Monday. And I might even go to a wrestling show on Saturday for Northeast Wrestling. So, and that was when I was going to go see it on Saturday. So I probably won't be seeing it this weekend. And I was talking to a friend of mine. We might go see it on Tuesday of next week, because I don't have a lot going on with finals and shit. I have like a free day next Tuesday, so I might go see it then. And if not then, probably like the week later or something. I'm not really sure yet. But bottom line, I will go see it. I don't know if I'll be seeing it before my next #AskGSM, but I'm looking forward to it though. I definitely will see it this month. That goes without saying. But Captain America 3, I guess. The first movie was good. I know this is not wrestling related, so if you want to skip ahead, go ahead. But the first movie I thought was good. The second movie I thought was fucking awesome. I really, really enjoyed Captain America 2. I don't know why. I just thought it was an awesome swerve fest of a movie, and I thought it was really, really well done. And I'm not even a huge superhero guy. I don't watch the TV shows. I don't watch The Shield. Not Our Shield, but, the TV show The Shield. I don't watch any of that stuff. I've never seen any of the Thor movies. Those movies bore me to fucking tears. I saw half of the first one. I almost fell asleep. But Iron Man, Captain America, I loved Ant-Man. I thought was really good too. The Avengers I love. But I'm looking forward to Civil War. It's technically Avengers 2.5. Let's be honest here. But anyway, to answer the second part of your question, am I Team Cap or Team Iron Man? Probably Team Iron Man. I don't know. I love Captain America, but I just like Iron Man more, because it reminds me a lot of CM Punk. Like, he's a dick, but he's justified in his own mind, and he's really good at what he does, despite being like an asshole. Despite the whole like being rich thing. That's not really CM Punk, but you know what I mean. But I feel like their personality-wise, he's always reminded me a lot of CM Punk. So, I don't know. And I love CM Punk, obviously, so probably Team Iron Man. I guess I could go either way. There's not really a wrong choice there, but I guess I'm #Team Iron Man. What do you think about the new WWE Women's title not sharing the same lineage as the old one? Do you think it should? It doesn't really bother me because I guess they want to kind of embark on a new era, which I'll talk about, which they kind of shoved down our throat last night. But it doesn't really bother me. Should they, acknowledge or go past, acknowledge or go on the past lineage of the championship? I think they should. It doesn't bother me that they're not because, like I said, they want to kick off anew with this title. It's technically the WWE Women's Championship and not just the women's title. I don't know. That's their logic. I'm not really sure. But do I think it should? Yes. Am I bothered that it's not? Not really. It's not that big of a deal. It's like I could see if they called it like the WWE World Women's Championship, but it's basically literally the same title, not the same belt. But I guess they want a new belt, so new lineage. That's not always been the case before, but that's the case with WWE. Should The Undertaker's last match take place at WrestleMania or Survivor Series, and why? Optional, who should he face? I say WrestleMania. I know he debuted at Survivor Series, but the pay-per-view has not meant shit in years. Honestly. I mean, we've had some good shows over the past couple of years. Last year's show sucked ass. I know it was the 25th anniversary of Taker's debut in WWE. That was the only special thing about that show. The rest of it sucked. 2014 was great. 2013 was one of the worst pay-per-views I've ever seen in my fucking life. 2012 was all right. 2011 was awesome. 2010 sucked. 2009 was not good either. 2008 was all right. So, by and large, Survivor Series has not meant anything in at least a decade. So let's not have Undertaker's last match there. If he lost at WrestleMania and said, "Oh, you said I can't wrestle at WrestleMania anymore, but I can wrestle regardless anyway," like I could see that, but he won, so he can wrestle at WrestleMania, so he should end his career at this show of shows, in my opinion. Who should he face? I mean, I could see him ending his career next year against John Cena. I'm not saying Cena has to win. I'm not saying Cena has to win or he has to lose or whatever. Hopefully Taker wins, but I just don't think Taker should lose another match at WrestleMania. But I think he should face John Cena in his last match at WrestleMania 33. And his last question here, with each new game in the series essentially feeling the same as the last one, do you think WWE should give 2K more time, 2 to 3 years to develop them, or should they stick with the yearly releases? Would you be willing to wait 2 to 3 years in between games? I'm not a huge video game buff. I buy all the games and I try to play them as much as I can, but I just don't really have the time, unfortunately. So I used to play them all the time. Like, I think the last game I played religiously was WWE 13, and that's almost like 3 years ago at this point. Wow. But I don't really care. I mean, I don't play all the games, so I guess if they waited 2 to 3 years in between games, I'd be fine with that as like a casual fan at best for the video games. But I think people just like playing as the fresh rosters. Like, I know next year's game, like gameplay-wise, storyline-wise, like you said, I feel like a lot of the complaints, anyway, from what I've heard, is that it feels a lot like the last installment, which I could see, I understand that I'm not calling people out on their criticism, but I just think that people just like, I think it's made worth it for playing like guys like Finn Balor and Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, and next year it's going to be like guys like Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy and Bayley, who I'm just beyond boggled. My mind is beyond boggled as to why they're not in the game, the 4 Horsewomen, but it still makes no sense to me why that didn't get done. But yeah, I just think that I don't think it's a big deal to me anyway. I'd be willing to wait 2 to 3 years, but I think a lot of people, I think it's not really worth the wait just because they want to play as these people like ASAP. They want to play as the fresh rosters and play as these new guys because the roster is changing every single year. Like, let's just say that this game came out, WWE 2K16 was the last game to come out until 2K19. The roster would be so outdated because you can imagine, like, in 3 years' time, half the roster's not going to even be here. I'm not saying that's always the case, but it's weird. I don't know, because the roster's always changing, so a lot of the guys on top are, like, even each game, by the time the new game comes out, the old roster's already outdated because half the guys are gone from the company. They're released, or they're injured, or they quit or something. So I think I would rather just stick to the yearly releases and just put more effort into trying to make it feel as different as possible from the last release instead of just, I don't know, I can't really talk too much about it because I don't play the games religiously. I'm not a huge video game buff as it is, just in general. But I think they're fine the way it is just because they're all about revenue, and if they wait 2 to 3 years, I don't think the sales would be that much different, and they really want that annual income of the video games and that revenue. So I don't think they'll ever do that, and they might, I don't know, but I don't think it's plausible at this point in time. At Vincent LSR, will Sami Zayn ever be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion? I can't confirm that he will be, not like I have insider plans or anything, but it's not like I can't say for sure that he will ever be WWE Champion, but I think he can be. I think he definitely has the potential to be. I never thought Daniel Bryan could be WWE champion, and he did. So never say never for Sami Zayn. He's already better off in the first 3 months of his WWE run than Daniel Bryan was in the first 2 years. So I think he has a very bright future ahead of him. If they can keep the course with Sami Zayn, he could be WWE champion at some point down the line. A Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens main event for the WWE title at WrestleMania, take my money. Who are the challengers, or who are challengers to Roman Reigns that actually have a chance to beat him for the title? I don't think Styles is going to beat him for the title. I'd mark out Beyond Belief, obviously, if you want to add Extreme Rules when RJ and I are there in Newark next month, or I guess later on this month. Wow, time flies. But the only two people that come to mind as people that legitimately have a shot of beating Reigns for the belt, Seth Rollins. Even then, I feel like Roman Reigns will retain. But Seth Rollins and probably John Cena. The direction I feel like they're heading in time for SummerSlam, Cena Reigns. And I could see Cena beating Reigns and becoming the 16th-time WWE champion, whatever. Ugh. But yeah, Seth Rollins and John Cena seem like the most likely candidates for people to take the title off of Roman Reigns. At TK96_, most successful post-WrestleMania NXT call-up thus far. And he had his list of options: Apollo Crews, Baron Corbin, the Vaudevillains, and Enzo and Cass. Enzo and Cass, easily. I was going to say Baron Corbin when you sent in that question yesterday, but then he lost at Payback. And I know Enzo just got hurt at Payback last night, but they're still far more over than any other people just mentioned. Crews, he's been winning a lot, which is good, but he feels directionless right now. Corbin was doing really well for himself, and he still is. But then he lost on the kickoff show to Dolph Ziggler in clean fashion. Why? Because fuck you. That's why. So I would go with Enzo and Cass, just because they feel so over, a lot more over than anyone else right now of the NXT call-up. So I know you're not including Sami Zayn, even though he did come up right before WrestleMania. I kind of include him in that group, but Crews, he's kind of getting over. He's still directionless. Baron Corbin lost his first match last night for God knows what reason. And the Vaudevillains have been doing well for themselves, but Enzo and Cass are just on a completely another level. Like, these guys have gotten themselves over in the matter of a fucking night. The night after WrestleMania, people love them. Even the casual crowds love them. So Enzo and Cass by a long shot. At CRhodes_T Wilson. Based on the picks I sent you, it looks like Cody Rhodes is returning soon. Upon his return, who do you think he should feud with? Again, I'm not really answering this question. It feels like you're the person who asked it the most, but I get this question a lot. When is Cody Rhodes coming back? I don't know, and I'm not going to say I don't care, because I would mark out if Cody Rhodes came back. Don't get me wrong, but we've seen this time and time again with Cody Rhodes teasing that Stardust is done, and Cody Rhodes is coming back. Just because he got a tattoo on his shoulder doesn't mean that Cody Rhodes is coming back. Come on, people. Come on. Really? I'll believe it when I see it. I've been saying this for 2 years now. I thought we would get it right before WrestleMania 31, and it didn't happen. So let's stop playing games. I'm not going to speculate when Cody Rhodes is coming back, or even who he's going to feud with, because I don't think they even have a plan in mind for Cody Rhodes. He's going to feud with fucking the Social Outcast or something, but which would be even worse than what he's doing right now. Which I guess is nothing, so maybe it's better, I don't know. But I'm going to stop speculating about the Cody Rhodes return, because it's gotten to a point where it's like, it's a running gag. It's a running gag. If it hasn't happened by now, it may not ever happen, or at least not anytime soon. So when it happens, it happens. At Swagzio, did AJ Styles look weak against Roman Reigns? I wouldn't go so far as to say he looked weak, but I thought it was a little stupid, the fact that Roman Reigns took 2 450 splashes, 3 phenomenal forearms, 1 through a table, and then all it takes for Roman to beat AJ is 1 spear. 1 spear. That's it. Maybe a couple Superman punches, but 1 spear. Really? So I thought that was a little strange. Otherwise, it was a really good match. And the interference kind of protected AJ to an extent, so I don't think he looked weak. I thought Roman looked, if anything, Roman looked too strong. Hashtag make Roman look strong, blah, blah, blah. Insert your own meme here. But I don't think AJ looked weak. I think it was more a matter of Roman looking too strong. That was a little stupid. The fact that he had 2 450 splashes, and he took 3 phenomenal forearms, and he still kicked out, and AJ Styles, which would have been alright if AJ took, like, at least 2 spears. At least 2. But no, just 1 spear, and he's done. Come on, really? I don't know. That was just my 2 cents on that. What is next for all the former League of Nations members? I don't really care. Barrett's gone. Rusev is a loser. Sheamus is a loser. Del Rio's a loser. Like I said, I could see one of the guys, probably Sheamus or Rusev, going after the U.S. Championship at the next pay-per-view. Beyond that, I have no idea. Maybe they put Apollo Crews and they feud him with Sheamus or something. I'd be fine with that. It's better than feuding him with Ryback, who means nothing right now. So I guess Sheamus doesn't either, but he has more credibility. He's a former WWE champion. For whatever that's worth, he's a former WWE champion. So I would put him with Apollo Crews, the U.S. title scene, because right now I don't know what else you do with these guys. You have not, and they're better off, alone though, and not together, because together they're just toxic. At Cody Collier 37, what do you think is next for Dean Ambrose and why? I assume a rematch with Jericho at the next pay-per-view, which I'm all for. I know he beat him clean last night at Payback, but Jericho could come out tonight and beat the shit out of him and say, "You didn't beat me, I'm still the best in the world at what I do, you stupid idiot," and wearing the scarf and the skinny jeans and the vest and blah, 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 and classic, awesome heel Jericho. So I could see a rematch the next pay-per-view, a submission match, or not a quit match, or no holds barred, or a street fight, or something, I don't know. But yeah, probably rematch with Jericho, and if not Jericho, if not that, Jericho's leaving in the near future and they can't do a rematch. I mean, I imagine he probably won't. The next pay-per-view is less than 3 weeks away, so it'd be stupid for them to, not stupid, but it wouldn't make much sense for him to leave now when he could just do the rematch with Ambrose. And the feud's been really good, so I would hate to see it get cut short after last night. So probably a rematch with Jericho, and beyond that, I said before, Roman Reigns in the title picture, him and Roman Reigns in the championship picture together. It might feel like it's too soon, but I feel like I said before, I feel like the long-term plan in terms of SummerSlam and whatever is to do, John Cena or Seth Rollins or somebody else at SummerSlam against Roman Reigns and not Dean Ambrose. So I would just do that feud now in like the spring and kill time before Roman Reigns moves on to other opponents. At E13A, so how is the start of this new era? And you know that WWE, whenever they shove something down our throat, it's the Divas Revolution, it's the Divas Revolution. It's not a Divas Revolution. It's a new era, it's a new era. It's not a new era. It feels like a new era. I want to believe it's a new era. I really do. But when you have the McMahons interfering in the main event like it's fucking 2000, it's not a new era. It's an old era. We have a lot of fresh talent, and we have a lot of fresh faces, a lot of good storylines, a lot of great wrestling. And last night's show was pure proof of that. But at the end of the day, it's all about the McMahons. It's all about the McMahons. And that's what the main event was all about. Overbooking aside, which was what included everything, that's what featured the McMahons most prominently, was that overbooking. And without them, the match probably would have been better. And hopefully that's not the case the next pay-per-view. We're not in for months and months and months of Stephanie and Shane interfering in main events with his bullshit. I mean, I'm fine if it leads to Shane and Triple H at SummerSlam. I'm totally content with that. But I can't live with this bickering of authority figures for 3 months. I love Shane. I'm glad he's sticking around. It's better than the authority by themselves. But if they're going to be interjecting themselves in every single main event for every Raw and every pay-per-view, SmackDown and everything and all, then it's going to be a very, very, very long few months in WWE. So what are my thoughts on the new era in WWE? It feels exactly like the last so far with the McMahons and Power. And we'll end on this, at Scarlet1, also from Twitter. Since we're in the new era, how would you describe the previous one in a single sentence? All about the McMahons. Again, all about the authority. What was the previous era anyway? I mean, what? The PG era? I don't really know. I know we were kind of in the reality era for a while, but it all kind of goes back to the same status quo shit. By and large, over the last couple of years, whenever it feels like we're on the verge of change, we always go right back to where we were before. So anyway, it's all about the McMahons. And the last 3 years have been all about the authority. That's how I would describe the previous era, and that's exactly what this new era is all about too, as at E13A said. It feels like there's no difference, other than the fresh faces, the fresh matches, the fresh feuds, the great wrestling. That's all well and good. I'm appreciative that we have that freshness, that sense of change in the product. But when we have the McMahons on top and trying to overrule each other for the authority of Monday Night Raw, for ruling the reins of Monday Night Raw, it feels exactly like the same old bullshit. So hopefully I'm fine with that. But as long as they keep it limited and out of a lot of the major storylines and they just focus on, Gallows, Anderson, AJ, and Reigns and not the McMahons, then I'm fine, I am happy, I'm content with this new era. Because ever since WrestleMania, the product's been better. I will definitely give them that. But when you have the McMahons running Raw, or at least on TV as much as they are, it feels no different than the quote-unquote previous era. So anyway, on that note, guys, that's it for hashtag AskGSM here today. Thanks for sticking around till the end or listening to parts of it or whatever. As always, if you want to send in a question, you can tweet me on the Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Sunday nights or on the wall itself. And also leave a comment down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed Payback last night. As I said, I will be in attendance for Extreme Rules in less than 3 weeks at the Prudential Center, I think it is, in Newark, New Jersey. I cannot wait for that. That should be a great time with RJ. The final stop on the hashtag RJ Marceau Farewell Tour. That should be awesome. And Monday Night Raw tonight, which should also be exciting as always. So until next time, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. Enjoy the month of May, and I'll catch you folks down the road.